You ever heard of Adam Schiff? He's a congressman out of, I think he's out of California. He would not every day, but maybe twice a week, he would go out and say that he's got inside information on Donald Trump and that an indictment was coming down any day now, and that Trump was going to be put in prison. And he had inside information. You know how he had it? Because he was on the House Intelligence Committee. You ever heard of him? He walked really beady eyes, but he talked really slow. So nothing could be creepier than a person with eyes like this, and they talk really slow and quiet. Donald Trump is evil. You look at somebody like that and it's like, no, something's wrong with you. You're evil. Never trust somebody with beady eyes and they look around a lot while they're talking.
Despite the unanimous conclusion of the 17 entities that make up the U.S. intelligence community that the Russian government sought to sow discord in our political process and undermine the Clinton campaign.
Turns out the number was not 17. The actual number was only 4. Even the New York Times corrected a story this week in which it also falsely claimed that all 17 intel agencies agreed on Russia.
Shifty eyes. Adam Schiff out of California. At least twice a week, he would come out and say, this is it. Any day now, Trump's going to be taken out in handcuffs. For 4 years, he did this.
Were you surprised to read in Comey's testimony that he did, in fact, tell the president on 3 separate occasions that the president was not under investigation?
I was surprised by that, and frankly, I don't think that was appropriate for the director to do.
Is that true?
You know, I can say that the president is hardly a credible source really on any of this stuff. This is someone, obviously, who suggested that Clapper had testified there was no evidence of collusion.
Clapper had testified there was no evidence of collusion.
As I said before, I testified to this effect. I saw no direct evidence of political collusion between the campaign and the Trump campaign and the Russians.
Just earlier this week, and this was in public testimony where those comments can be vetted. And in fact, of course, that's not what Director Clapper testified at all.
Well, as I stated, I don't know of any evidence.
I did not have any evidence.
I had no evidence that was presented to me of collusion.
I kept wondering, hey, wait a minute. They always talk about conspiracy theories and how Republicans lie, and there are a lot of Republicans that lie, but that's not the point. They always talk about these conspiracy theories and how Republicans lie, and then you have somebody like him blatantly lying, clearly lying.
The director himself asked a question and wouldn't respond to whether the president himself was a subject of investigation.
I gather from all this that you're willing to say now that while you were director, the President of the United States was not under investigation. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
All right. So that's a fact that we can rely on at this
Yes, sir.
Okay.
When the dossier came out, he had insider information that everything in it was true. The peeing and prostitutes and all the nonsense that was in that dossier. And it's like, well, come on, dude. This doesn't make any sense.
The president doesn't want the public to see the underlying facts. What is revealed in our memo are quotations from the very FISA application that really demonstrate just how misleading the Republicans have been.
What do we want to learn from Adam Schiff testimony?
From which?
From Adam Schiff.
I learned nothing from Adam Schiff. I think he's a maniac.
What would you want to learn if he testified?
I think Adam Schiff is a deranged human being. I think he grew up with a complex for lots of reasons that are obvious. I think he's a very sick man.
I knew the entire time that guy was crazy. He used to go on, I think it was Tucker Carlson. And Tucker would have him on and they would go back and forth. But once that whole Donald Trump thing came out, he would never go back on Tucker Carlson because he's the only person who would ask questions like, well, wait a minute. Never happened on all the other media runs that this guy was doing. He got fame. This guy was driving and his door just swung open. Anyway, he got fame going on to shows and talking about arresting Donald Trump and any day now. Any day now. Mueller, oh my gosh, I know everything that's going to come down in the Mueller investigation. Wait till you guys see it. Back in the day when I used to watch those really bad sitcoms, but they were good back then, it would always drive me crazy when you would have like a 2 or 3 parter and it'd be too big and continued. It's like, oh, come on. Anyway, what about Eric Swalwell? You ever heard of him? He's the greatest. He talked like this. Something, I don't know, something happened. He looks like he ran into a glass pane of a glass door, but his face stayed like that. That guy, you know who he is. I'll put him up. Anyway, he was another one who was going around lying, saying he had insider information on Donald Trump, and then he's going to be taken out in handcuffs. It's going to happen, guys.
This is Watergate plus, right? Watergate was more of a domestic issue, rule of law at stake. The articles involved contempt of Congress, obstruction of justice, and abuse of power. Here, if you step back and ask, why did the president direct Michael Cohen to lie, if that's what he did? It's to cover up a relationship that he had with Russia that is still ongoing today, where what we value, democracy, human rights, a rule of law, that's at stake.
Wait till next week. No, he would he would hand it off to Adam Schiff, then Adam Schiff would say, next week, I'm telling you guys, it's coming next week. Anyway, he was also on the House Intelligence Committee, which is interesting because they're supposed to be talking about things that are top secret and private, but every week they're coming out talking about things that we're not privy to, and they did that as a means to say, trust me, I have credibility. I'm on the House committees.
You have to separate this from what you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. That's Bob Mueller's job, and just general collusion, which is offensive and concerning. I've seen plenty of evidence of collusion. We have very good circumstantial evidence that the Trump team, the family, the businesses were eager to work and were working with the Russians while the Russians were helping them. And I think in the court of law, that's enough.
So as you know, according to the special counsel, Robert Mueller, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government. Are you ready, Congressman, to accept that conclusion from Robert Mueller?
Yes, as it relates to criminal charges, I thank Mr. Mueller for his work on behalf of the country, and I accept that. But I think the clip you laid out explains that just because you are criminally a non-colluder doesn't mean that we don't want to know what evidence Bob Mueller found about efforts you and your team and your family and your business took to work with the Russians.
Knowing what you know from the House Intelligence Committee's investigation, do you think the president's testimony would fill in some of the holes in your committee's findings?
The president would best serve the country by just sitting down and coming clean with Bob Mueller. Innocent people cooperate. Guilty people screw around, they try and cover up, they try and bury the evidence, and he should actually just follow his own advice, which was when he said back in September of 2016, only the mob takes the Fifth Amendment. Prove to America, Mr. President, that you are not running the White House like a mobster.
And it works because they're like, people are just like, oh, well, I mean, he's on the Intelligence Committee. He's got to know something, right? And he just did that for years. And he, too, got a lot of fame, and he, too, is out of California. He has something more interesting going on, though. And I'm not gonna harp on this, but he has something more interesting going on. You ever heard of Fang Fang? Fang Fang was a Chinese spy. Now, we weren't supposed to hear of her because she's a spy. Well, it turns out Eric Swalwell was banging her, and he was banging her for a couple of years. And he was on House committees, mainly the Intelligence Committee, banging a Chinese spy. How's that work? You think she got anything out of him? How did he think he could get her? Should have been pretty obvious when you have an attractive young woman approaching you and you look like him. Should have been pretty obvious that she wanted something. And he should have been able to put 2 and 2 together. I'm on House Intelligence Committees. I'm privy to all kinds of American secrets. She's a young national from China, student in the Bay Area somewhere. What does she want with me? Never crosses mind. Don't they have classes when you go into these committees?
Jim, I was shocked when, just over 6 years ago, I was told about this individual, and then I offered to help, and I did help, and I was thanked by the FBI for my help, and that person is no longer in the country. And I was a little surprised to read about my cooperation in that story, because the story says that there was never a suspicion of wrongdoing on my part, and all I did was cooperate. And the FBI said that yesterday. But the wrongdoing here, Jim, is that at the same time this story was being leaked out is the time that I was working on impeachment on the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. And if this is a country where people who criticize the president are going to have law enforcement information weaponized against them, that's not a country that any of us want to live in. And I hope it is investigated as to who leaked this information.
Hey, there's a lot of nations that want this information. We need you to pinky promise you're not going to tell anybody. And please don't go on the news telling everybody that you're on these secret committees, because it lets them know that you're a target. Eric Swalwell is a complete moron. Adam Schiff is a lying moron. Actually, they're both liars, but they're both morons. Matter of fact, he's banging this Chinese spy for a couple years. No one knows how much damage that did. And I guarantee a lot of you guys didn't even know about this. Why do I bring this stuff up? The whole time that these idiots are getting up on TV telling us, I know something, I know information that you don't know, and when it comes out, it's gonna blow your mind. This is what they're doing. The whole time I'm like, how is this person on the Intelligence Committee? And I know more than them. Because they would say things, and I didn't know if they were lying or they just didn't know. But I'm like, no, that's not true. Like, how do I know more than these guys? And they're on House Intelligence Committees. They're not very intelligent. They're not very intelligent. I'm sitting there trying to figure out, how are these idiots on House Intelligence Committees? I don't understand it. Ilhan Omar is another one. Complete moron. She's never had anything good to say about America. She only talks about what America could be if it was left up to her. She says anti-Semitic things regularly, and no one says anything about it. Why did I bring her up? I think she's on the Foreign Relations Committee and House Intelligence Committee. Some committees that make absolutely no sense, and that would be the last person you would put on them. How do these people get on these committees? Just because they're elected as representatives? That's the only qualification? Because you would think sleeping with Chinese spies would disqualify you, but nope. They left them on after they found out that he's sleeping with a Chinese spy, who of course wants secrets, and he's in a select group who shares secrets. They still left him on the committees. Ilhan Omar, as soon as you say something racist and anti-Semitic, you should be
more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
I want to talk about the political influence in this country that says it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country.
You should be taken off of foreign relations committees. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Adam Schiff has been caught in several lies, and he just sits there and does this, and they're like, oh, he's a good guy. Good guy. Anybody can be on these committees, clearly. But that's more worrisome than anything. Like, whoa. these politicians are morons. They're representing the country. They're not smart, and they're on these committees, and I just don't understand what the qualifications are. You see it with the FBI, James Comey.
The FBI is not politicized. That's nonsense. The FBI, though, is being politically attacked. And the reason that is so dangerous and so stupid, even if you're a Republican, we need those institutions. All of us need those institutions.
Who's the other one? I want to say Tapper, but it's not Tapper. Anyway, when you hear them speak, they're idiots.
If the FBI, for instance, had a FISA court order of some sort for a surveillance, would that be information you would know or not know?
Yes.
You would be told this.
I would know that.
If there was a FISA court order
Yes.
on something like this.
Something like this, absolutely.
And at this point, you can't confirm or deny whether that exists?
I can deny it.
There is no FISA court order?
Not to my knowledge.
Of anything at Trump Tower?
No.
Comey's probably the dumbest of all of them.
The President of the United States is lying about the FBI, attacking the FBI, and attacking the rule of law in this country. How does that make any sense at all? The FBI's reputation has taken a big hit, but that damage has nothing to do with me.
And he talks with hubris. And he thinks that makes him look intelligent. But he says stupid things. And when these guys are testifying, I'm like, the only thing they're really good at is not answering questions. But when they answer a question, you see how dumb they are. It's like, wow, I should run for office. I'm an idiot, but I know more than these idiots. Anyway, why I brought up those three representatives. There's a lot more, but why I brought up those three is the Republicans won, and it looks like they're going to have over 220 seats, 218, something like that. And a guy named Kevin McCarthy is about to be put in as the House Majority Leader. And the House Majority Leader has powers. Remember, everyone's always said how Nancy Pelosi is the third most powerful person on earth. She was House Majority Leader. Actually, even when she was Minority Leader. But that's a very, very, very powerful position. Congress votes on it. He's the only one who can get the votes. I would love for Jim Jordan to get it, but it's just not going to happen. I don't see it happening. But we'll work with what we have. He's announced.
One thing I said from the very beginning, Eric Swalwell cannot get a security clearance in the public sector. Why would we ever give him a security clearance in the secrets to America? So I will not allow him to be on Intel. You have Adam Schiff, who had lied to the American public time and again. We will not allow him to be on the Intel committee either. And you look, Congresswoman Omar, her anti-Semitic comments that have gone forward. We're not going to allow her to be on foreign affairs.
I've been asking this the whole time. What are these idiots doing representing us? They're terrible. They're lying, and they're dumb. On top of lying, they're dumb. When smart people lie, it's not good because they can get away with it more. But when dumb people lie, it's like insulting. Like, oh my God, stop. It's like when your kids lie and you know they're lying, it's like, oh, come on, you're insulting my intelligence. Stop. Of course it was you. I know it was you. Anyway, he stripped them of their powers and got them off the committees, and now they can actually go do some real work. Because they definitely don't do anything. Do they even vote? There's a lot of missed votes by them, especially Ilhan Omar. She just chills up in Minnesota reading racist things and thinking racist thoughts. It's so great. They're gone. I'm glad they're gone. It's over. No more. We won't have to see Ilhan Omar speaking down to us and how terrible the country is that saved her life, that took her in and allowed her to become an elected official. So terrible. Oh my God, how tough must her life be? Now she's up in arms because she can't share information with people back home, because I guarantee she figures that we're secondary to Somalia. She does not love this country as much as she loves Somalia. I almost said Salamia. She's not a good person. She's always angry. She married her own brother. Then she married a white guy. So there's a trend among liberals, and I know it's not just liberals, but what makes it offensive is they always say racist things about the evil white man. Then they go marry evil white men. I don't know if they're evil, I'm just saying. According to them. So when a black non-liberal does it, it's not a big deal. It's just when you always talk about how evil the white man is and America is, you go find an American white man to marry. Does that mean you're compromised? All the women, they all have evil white men. I wonder if they're controlled by their puppet master husbands. What do you think?